Right, so this tutorial is going to be about how to make IK joints. Now the first thing to do before trying to look at this tiger is to just discuss how IK joints work. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to try to use IK joints to rig this tiger's arms, because this tiger's arms are actually quite strange and they've been put together with a forced perspective. If I were to do this tiger's arms properly, I'd stretch them out into a T-pose and rig that. So let's have a look at IK arms first. I'm going to create a new scene and just call this IK joints test. And in here I'm going to create a new armature. I'm just going to pull that down a little bit and move this along so that we can see everything a lot clearer. So I'll take this armature and I'll move it up here, rotate it, and just turn it into something that looks a little bit more typical. So I'll make this bit here the hip. I'll press E and just extrude that down. That can now be the knee. And then I'll now take this, extrude it down here and make that the leg. And then from the side I'll press E again and extrude out a foot like that. So there we go. This is a very 3D representation of an IK joint, but I think that's good because it'll mean that we are seeing this in 3D and then we can see the altered version in 2D. So the first thing to say is, if you're going to take a joint chain like this and string an IK through it, you're going to be taking this bone here and telling it to bend at the knee when the foot moves upwards. So let's first just distinguish between IK and FK. FK is forward kinematics. It means that you grab a bone like this, you press rotate, and you rotate that bone. So that is forward kinematics. Functions very much like the old action figures that you might have played with as a kid. IK puts a string from the bottom of this joint up to the root of, let's just say, this joint for now. So from the bottom, from the ankle, up to the top of the hip. And that string attaches to the foot, and when the foot moves, the ankle bends accordingly. So I'll just show you a quick example of how that might look. If I press Alt-P just to disconnect this bone, you might take this foot bone here, move it up, and in doing so, the knee would bend like that accordingly and follow through. So let's see that in action, shall we? And I'm going to make a whole bunch of mistakes as I go along to try and be helpful when it comes to problem solving. So this the first thing to say is you can have a quick look at your joints to see how well they function as IKs before you set up any modifiers or any constraints. So in pose mode, if you take a hold of this bone and press the N key to bring open the N menu and just have a look at tool, you'll see auto IK. If you turn that on and you move this around, you'll see that actually you can already look at your joint chain and see how it works as an IK. Now this isn't very good for animation, but it can be pretty good for posing. But it can also be pretty good for just testing your skeleton to see how well it's going to react to an IK constraint. And as you can see here, this leg, it's not reacting the way I'd want it to. So I can immediately say that I need to come here and change the way this works. So the way that the shin works, the way that the IK constraint knows where to bend, is based on the bend that's already present in this knee. So if I just click on this knee, press G and just move it like this, it just gives me a little bit of bend here. And just by having that bend there going in that direction, it tells the IK which way to bend. So let's just test that out now again in pose mode and see what happens. So I'll grab this foot, I'm already on auto IK, and there we go. We can see that we're not really getting anywhere with this. But let's grab a hold of the actual shin instead and move that, and hey presto, you can start to see how this might work. So let's just take that away as a general rule. Always nudge your knee slightly in the direction that you'd like it to bend to help tell Blender which way the IK constraint should be functioning. So we'll leave the auto IK method here because it doesn't really have much of a purpose outside of some brief posing that you might want to do.